Hi there, welcome to Women's View. We are delighted to be with you today, and we want to have an interesting conversation on self-discovery and purpose. And before we get into that conversation, we are live on Facebook. Just in case you have to leave your house, go somewhere, we are with you on this journey. We are live on Facebook. Our SMS line is open to 1144. We would love to hear your thoughts on this. Any questions that you have concerning this topic, any thoughts, any ideas, any opinions, we would love to hear all of those. My name is Tina Ngeta, and I will be your host. And today in studio, I am joined by a beautiful lady, one who has taken the journey of self-discovery. And, it's amazing to look at you and to think that there is a journey that comes with this, that the package wasn't always complete. Yes. And so we will be unraveling that package a little bit. But before we do that, please take a moment to introduce yourself to our guests.
Good morning. My name is Fauza Beltz, and I'm author and international speaker. A Kenyan by birth and currently living in United Arab Emirates, Dubai.
All right. Fauza, it's amazing to have you with us.
Thank you.
And you look remarkable, if I do say so.
So do you. Thank you. Bless you.
Asante. All right. So I'm going to start this journey with asking who is Fauza. And basically, maybe to talk about who you are, we would need to go back to growing up and childhood and what sort of a childhood you had, to lead us up to the woman that you are today.
My humble beginning, I was born in the rural part of Kwale, in Tiribe actually, Kwale is now a county. And I grew up, my mom and my dad were never married, so I grew up in different homes. I grew up with my maternal grandmother, and then I was taken in later to be with my paternal grandmother. And I had a normal childhood. I remember by the age of 8, I was already taking care of, the normal house chores. Go bring firewood, go fetch water, clean your clothes, and walking to school. I remember my primary school was about an hour and a half walk.
All right.
And normal buildings. I didn't go to a fancy school. And when it's raining sometimes, it can, drop in.
Yes.
And normal life. The normal life in a village, in a rural area.
All right.
Yeah.
And at age 8, you're doing these remarkable things. You're fetching firewood, you're fetching water. Did you also know your purpose? Did you know what you were here for? Or did you see beyond the village, the humble village life? Did you have that in your mind?
Honestly speaking, I would say no. And, when you live in the rural areas, it's sort of a different mindset. There are some things that, at the age of 8, what do I really know anyway, know? And the only thing that I knew was what I learned and what grandma taught me. And, that's what I grew knowing. And, she learned that. It's a generation. And as, we impact other people's lives, we tend to pick what we are being taught.
All right.
So I could say I had no idea that one day I will be sitting in GBS TV station.
All right.
No idea.
Okay. So move me from that girl.
Yes.
To perhaps where your journey of self-discovery, or that place where you realize this is not it. This is not enough. The village is not enough for me. What changed?
I would say when I moved from there to Nairobi, before I joined my high school. And then Nairobi, of course, it's on the go.
Yes, yes, it is.
You suddenly realize that, I'm in a different city. And, mingling with different people. I've been very blessed with my best friend, Banis. We've been friends, I think, since I was 12. She was 10.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's still my best friend. I know she's watching.
Yeah,
Hi, Banis. Hi.
Okay.
And, so for me, I would say, having gone to school here in Nairobi, interacting with different girls, you learn from other other people's journey, you suddenly realize that there are stories. You know, everyone has a story.
Yes.
And that was like a wake-up call for myself. And academically, I would say I was struggling.
All right.
Well, I have no idea, you know, I have no idea why, but I think because, you know, sometimes when you're in a community where you are like not supported,
yes.
you know, not encouraged, you sort of lose confidence, and then fear starts to creep in, and you lose you, you know, you lose yourself. And I've always believed and thought that I am not capable of anything.
Okay.
Which, it's a lie. Because I believe, you know, God creates us with a purpose. But to awakening to it, you know, we need to believe that we are somebody.
All right. Allow me to take you back to where you've talked about, you know, growing up in a community and there is no support, and so there is loss of confidence.
Yes.
So I'm assuming we're talking about, and I can imagine as well, moving from the village into Nairobi, the lifestyle is different. People talk differently, people dress differently.
Absolutely.
So an already low self-esteem would go even lower.
Absolutely.
So at which point did you realize that this was a confidence issue? You know, and because there's clearly a demarcation where you're talking about what you used to believe and what you now believe. So what changed? At which point did it change?
My teenage years. I think my teenage years were full of anger, you know, trying to reconcile with myself, you know. The fact that I didn't grow up with my parents, I was sort of, I mean, they've been there, they've supported me and all that, but there was always a miss. And then when we start comparing ourselves to others, there will always be a problem.
All right.
There will always be something amiss. There will be always something that it's not enough.
Yes.
And for me, my teenage years were sort of harder because that's when I was trying to fit in the community and then the society that I live in, trying to reconcile with myself. So emotionally, I was not okay. But sometimes we can pretend that it's okay.
Yes.
From the outside, but from within, we are broken in pieces.
All right. So you go through high school, knowing, feeling lesser than the other people, and this continues for how long?
I would say it has continued until I was married.
Oh, wow.
It's been an interesting journey, Tina. Yeah.
All right. So what, but you were aware there was a problem?
I was, but I was so scared to talk about it.
All right.
Because I didn't want anyone to judge me. And if you keep everything to yourself because you're so scared to open up to other people, you know, you're blocking yourself. And you don't want to be vulnerable, of course, and that's why you don't want to open up and talk about it. But at a certain time, I remember talking about how I felt with my friend Bernice, and she's been very supportive, actually. She's my role model, and she always told me, I don't think there is anything to be, to be embarrassed of or to be afraid of, or you are here, you are living, and God loves you, regardless. So for me, I think that sort of started, developing my attitude towards my life and, my brokenness, and trying to think, who am I? Why am I here on this earth? And yeah, it was not an easy,
It hasn't been an easy
No.
journey. All right, you've talked about a number of emotions, and if I may go back to that and ask, you've talked about being angry, you've talked about being scared,
Yes.
and perhaps guys watching you are wondering, what would you be afraid of? What would you be angry at? Because it sounds like you had a good childhood growing up, you know. And when you say you grew up with grandmas, unfortunately for most people, you tend to think if you grew up with grandma, you'll be spoiled.
No.
You know? So I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
So what is it that you are angry about? What is it that you are afraid of?
I was afraid of, you know, failure.
Okay.
You know, and the fact that I was struggling academically, that had a lot of impact.
All right.
In my, you know, with Fauza. But because I didn't talk about it, you know, to other people, not everyone can realize how we feel if you don't open up and talk about it. And I couldn't just understand, why can't I just get it right?
All right.
You know, and that can make someone lose self-confidence as well. And again, you know, if it's different with my son, you know, when he does something, you tell him, oh, that's okay. Next time we can do it differently. But if overall, you know, around the, you know, where you are, you don't have that kind of encouragement, you know, you cower, you know, and you believe that you are not able, you are not capable.
All right.
So for me, and I had a lot of anger with myself because I was blaming myself, you know, for not being like another, for not being like my, you know, my teenage mates, and you know, because I want to fit in too. And sometimes if you try to fit in, because we want to be accepted, there will always be a miss, Tina. So for me, that was my struggle.
All right. How long did these feelings persist, maybe? You know, you're saying this journey went all the way till after you're married. So you've done high school.
Yeah.
Now the world, society is looking at you as a grown-up. You have choices to make, careers to make, exams results to deal with.
Yes, and then I got the results. It was a D.
All right.
And then you're like, okay, where do I stand?
All right.
And yeah.
So what was the journey in between, you know, going maybe college or working?
Yes,
Did you go back home?
No, so I went to college. I was very fortunate, you know, and I used to go to my college in Buruburu, and at that time I was staying with a relative in Umoja, so I would walk from Umoja to Buruburu through past Mtindwa, you know, you can imagine when it's raining.
Yes.
And but because I had been given the opportunity to at least step foot in the college, I was willing to do anything, you know, to get that paper, because, you know, we're always been reminded that education is a weapon, you know, you need that. But now I realize that sometimes, you know, if you have other talents, like I was very good in sports.
All right.
But because, you know, there are certain things that, you know, education comes first.
Yes.
And I believe also sometimes if we support certain areas that where people are good at, it also, I think, builds someone's personality and character.
Okay.
So again, in my college, my lecture was very good. Suddenly I realized that there is another world, you know, and it's not all about having the paper. It's about what do you do after that.
Okay.
You know, you can have that paper, but if you don't have any ambition or any goals or any, you know, it's not going to help you.
Yes.
Right? So for me, I think I've been like that, what can I say? I wanted to learn new things, you know, and realizing that you can do A, B, C, D. It's not all about 1, 2, 3. It helped me also, you know, to find my own ways to be a somebody.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that journey, but we're going to come back to that in a bit. We need to take a break, but we will be right back. As we're coming back, we would love to hear your sentiments on this. Our SMS line is open to 1144, and you can reach us through Facebook as well. We would love to hear your thoughts. See you in a little bit.
Have you ever felt abandoned, rejected, unloved, emotionally broken? Hi, my name is Fauza Beltz, and I'm the author of Rising from the Dust, A Woman's Journey to Self-Discovery. Rising from the Dust is a personal life journey. Growing up, I lost my own identity in the community that I was growing, especially at the age of 18 and 19, when we are all teenagers and we are trying to fit in the community and the society that we're living in. Later on, I realized that it doesn't matter where you come from, how your upbringing was. The question that I asked myself is, what am I doing now with the life that I have at the moment? And that is when I began to open up all those cabinets and started cleaning up so that I can move on with the life that God has blessed me with. Writing this book was a pure labor of love. I had moments where I felt giving up, crying. It was emotional because I was going back to the childhood memories that I didn't want to talk about it. But for the story to be perfect, those cabinets needed to be opened. My prayer for you is, if you know anyone who is struggling, disempowered, disencouraged, that you, when you get to read a copy of this book, that you will also find your own power to be who God has created you to be. I would encourage you to get a copy so that you too can find your own power, because I believe it's through sharing our stories and learn from other people that we too will learn to be strong. You can get the book here in Kenya, in Prestige Bookstore, Savani's, Chania. You can also get it on FauzaBeltz.com. You can also call us on the numbers on your screen. Let me know how you're going to rise from your own dust.
We are talking about her journey of self-discovery. And, you know, we are still live on Facebook. We are ready for your comments. We're ready for your thoughts. We're ready for your queries. Our SMS line is open to 1144. We would love to hear from you, and any questions that you have for Fauza, I'm sure she would be delighted to hear. Now, Fauza, we have gone through your journey from childhood and high school, and now we're in college. And in college, life is taking to take shape.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And you've discovered that there is more to life than academic excellence.
Absolutely.
You don't have to score A's, you know, to make it in life.
Yeah.
I am curious, however, about emotions that we talked about in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions of anger, emotions of fear,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you did not quite fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Did this follow you to campus? Were you, again, feeling like you aren't fitting in with your college mates? Were you angry? Were you still scared?
I would say, I think at that time of my life, I was in my teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I had friends who they were very supportive, you know, at that point in my life. And I think my teacher also played a big role, you know, because, you know, I was not good in books.
All right.
So then he always said to me, or rather to us, that, you know, it's not all about, you know, getting
books,
A's
yes.
at the books, you know. There is more to life than this. And if you prepare yourself for the life after that, you know, after the college, because I think sometimes when we are in college or we're in school, whatever we are, you know, it's like, you know, this. And
Yes.
that's why sometimes most people, they actually get frustrated wakimaliza shule, you know.
All right. Tunnel vision. You're just
yes.
seeing what is right here. You're not thinking
and then
about
the
what's
world
gonna happen.
outside
Yes.
there, it's actually totally different. So for me, that was like, I had like my moment of like, you know, like,
Yes.
oh, okay, so life is actually not all about
The books.
Yeah. And it gave me confidence.
All right.
You know, looking at, I wasn't good in the books, I realized that, okay, I can still be somebody.
All right.
So, yeah.
So the fear reduced?
Sort of, yeah. And I started having like a little bit of confidence because, you know, I knew if I work hard, I can be someone.
All right.
Yeah.
Allow me to ask, as a woman, because I think one of the greatest things that happen to us when we lose our self-confidence, it also affects how we see ourselves.
Absolutely.
How, you know, when I look at a mirror, what exactly do I see? Did you feel beautiful at this point? Did you feel worthy? Did you feel worthy? Did you feel beautiful? Did you feel...
No.
You did not feel
I've
beautiful.
never saw myself like a pretty girl.
All right.
And I think it has to do with, you know, with... The reason is, let me just say it, you know, having been born out of wedlock, I think that also had a lot of issues with myself, though.
Okay.
You know, like, I had a lot of questions, you know, but why? Of course, but you don't get these answers.
All right.
You know, and the fact that I grew up in different homes also made me, like, there was always something amiss.
Okay.
And, I mean, what's pretty at that time when you don't even know who you are? And for me, it was, there was nothing pretty in Fauza.
All right.
I didn't see that because I had a lot of questions because I became sort of a victim because I was like, okay, so why was I born? You know, why did I have to be in this? So I had a lot of questions for myself, though. And of course, you don't get answers for.
And sometimes the questions that don't get answers translate into complaints.
Absolutely.
So you had a lot
and
of...
comparison.
Comparison and complaints. And so when you talk about being a victim, you're talking about what we would call a victim mentality.
Yes.
Feeling like life has been unfair to
you? Yes, because I was constantly comparing my journey with other people.
All right.
And when, like I said, when we do that, there will always be something amiss. Because we don't realize that God has a reason for us. We don't know that. Well, maybe we know that, but I was even angry with God.
Why were you angry with God?
Because why would I be such in anger and fear and He's there? That was my mentality.
All right.
You know? And you then realize, but God has chosen you for this path for a reason. But at that moment, at that particular time in my life, I didn't have that light.
Okay.
So I didn't know. I didn't know better.
All right. So when did you know? Allow me to take you to that point. When did you realize that? When did you realize that you had a victim mentality? When did you realize that life? You know, you get the life that you make for yourself.
Absolutely.
Nobody, you can't get another person's life. You only get your life.
You own it, yeah.
When did you get that light bulb moment?
When did I get that? You know, I would say when I finished college, I was very happy. I had my job. I started saying, oh, okay, so there is more to life than feeling sorry for ourselves. Because I think, Tina, the mistake that we do sometimes is victimizing ourselves, and the worst thing is feeling sorry for ourselves.
All right.
And for me, the liberation came about when I started working. I was like, hey, I'm in charge now of Fauza, and I'm responsible for my life, and there is something, there is light now. I can see the light, even if it's not so clear. But I have something, and now I think maybe I'm a somebody. And then when you start thinking differently, you suddenly actually realize that God has been with you through this journey. Because we cannot do it on our own, Tina.
Yes.
We cannot. It's impossible. But if we don't know that, we will always be living, you know, with that negative, you know, and fearful mindset, which I don't think it's healthy.
All right. At this point, have you begun to feel pretty? Have you begun to feel beautiful? Now there's a job and, you know, ka-ching-ching, there's money coming in and we're able to look after ourselves. Have you begun to feel pretty?
I would say yes.
You had begun
I
to
have,
feel pretty.
yeah, because then I realized that I'm in charge of my life. It doesn't matter even if I was born out of wedlock. It doesn't matter what, you know, the community has perceived. It doesn't matter. There are some things that suddenly I felt like they don't really matter anymore to me, because I started realizing that there is God and that He is in charge of Fauza, and He knows exactly how I feel. And having had that security of work started building me my confidence. And of course, I was in service industry. You meet different kind of people, you know. And for me, that gave me a whole different picture about life, you know. Meeting different people, dealing with different colleagues, different mindset. Everything was different. So it liberated Fauza. And then I realized that, okay, there is life, and life is for living.
This is from learning. You know, you're learning as you interact with these people, and learning that to come out of your cocoon, the isolation, and to stop looking at yourself as a victim, but as a participant in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, when we close ourselves, our thoughts gets blocked. You know, they get blocked as well, right? But then if you start talking with different people, you get different ideas. And I think that's how we learn, actually. But if you close yourself, if you're not open to receive, you know, you will always be on that small area where you feel comfortable for yourself, because you don't want to, you know, to look on the other side and, you know, and learn something. Because we learn, as humans, we learn every day. There is always something to learn from everything.
All right.
So,
were you still, did you still have feelings that you hadn't, remnants of the feelings of anger, the questions? Did the victim come out at any given time during this, or were you totally okay, given that you told us that this journey continued till after you were married? So you still had moments when you felt inadequate?
Well, we always have that, especially if something happens in life, we go back to our old way of thinking. You know, something happens, it triggers you.
All right.
You know, you go for an interview, you fail, you're like, oh, it's true, I'm a loser.
Yeah. I hear
you know? And the journey keeps on evolving, you know? And for me, I would say there are still had moments where if something happened, I would go back in my comfort zone and start worrying and, you know, feeling fear and letting fear sabotage me, sabotage myself, actually. I've had those moments too.
Okay. Talk to me about getting married. I know that was one of the hurdles on your journey to self-discovery. What made that maybe difficult?
What made that difficult, Tina, was I realized that because we are all different, and because my partner, my baby daddy, he's different. He's not
in terms of the race,
in terms of the race,
nationality,
the nationality, and all those kind of things. Not the same culture. It brought a lot of issues, you know, and I suddenly became an outcast.
All right.
You know, and for me, that was hard to take.
Okay.
You know, especially if it comes from people who should support. That was harder. That was very hard to swallow. And then I realized that we are different. And you get all sorts of labels.
Yes.
Oh, she's a prostitute. You know. Oh, you get all these kind of names. And that was hard.
All right.
That was hard to take.
Okay.
Because, yes, I've been in a journey, but this was a wake-up call. I realized suddenly that, oh, we humans are different from each other. And, yeah.
Did it have anything maybe to do with the feelings that you had earlier of not feeling beautiful enough, not feeling worthy enough? And so now society is looking at you and wondering, what did you have to do to get this man? What price did you have to pay? Did you feel
Yes, because you are a prostitute.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's no, according to society, there was no other way of you getting this money. So this affects your self-esteem and your confidence as well.
Absolutely, Tina. Because when words have a lot of power, Tina.
Yes.
They can break someone and they can make someone.
All right.
And sometimes we humans, we point fingers on each other. Very easy. You know, we see the wrong from the other person sometimes very quicker, instead of actually sitting down and talk. You know, there is always a diplomatic way of dealing with things, right?
Yes.
But if I have the power, you have to follow the orders. So it's always the one who has power suppresses the one who doesn't have the power. And for me, I was in the middle of a situation where I had to put myself together with my shame, because I was so ashamed of Fauza. I felt like the earth should open actually and swallow me.
Why were you ashamed of Fauza?
Why
because
was
of what they were calling you?
Yes.
Because of what they were saying?
Yes.
All right. And so you had internalized this and you were feeling what they were saying was true about yourself?
Yes, because it's not a taboo.
All right.
It felt like it was not part of my culture. It felt like it's a taboo for me, you know, to be with someone who we don't share the same, you know, the same. We had nothing
background,
in common, nothing at all.
All right.
So for me, that was the hardest part, you know. And yeah, it had something to do with myself. And I remember sometimes even walking, you know, with my fiancé then, feeling so ashamed, because, you know, when you start getting all these labels, you know, unconsciously you walk around looking at people thinking, oh, yeah, they know I'm a prostitute. Oh, they know, you know. You have these kind of things, Tina, and it's hard.
How did you conquer that?
How did I conquer that? Choices. I think sometimes life will push you to the wall. But then the choices that we make for ourselves, we have to go back to realizing, who am I? Because when we ask that question to ourselves, who am I? You know, we will sort of start dealing with things differently. And for me, having gone that, it created a lot of division, you know, between families, of course, you understand. And but how can we deal with this? What's the way forward now? What do I have to do, I, Fauza, you know, to be able to accept myself as a whole package with all the labels and everything,
all right,
and move on with my life? And yeah, in life, you have to make decisions, you have to make choices, and we have to talk ourselves through, you know, the mentor talk. I think, you know, it's the mentor talk that when you know that our differences shouldn't actually break people, you suddenly realize that I think God has created each one of us to be different. Why do I want to fit in?
Okay.
Why fit in when you are born to shine, Tina? And when I realized that, I felt like it's okay. And the decisions that I made, if they're good or bad, it's only God who knows. And until then, it's okay not to be okay.
All right. I love something you've talked about. You've mentioned choices.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the journey of self-discovery, it kind of rings to me as a journey that is lonely. One that you have to take alone. You have to shut out opinions of people.
Absolutely.
You have to shut out the community,
Everything.
what they consider to be a taboo or not. And so in a way, it redefines the relationships that you have with people. You might lose relationships.
You lose people. You know, you lose people. You become lonely and you are left alone. Because if you don't do it this way, bye-bye.
All right.
You don't belong here. Okay? And it's hard. But again, it's the choices that we make in life that they can lead us to a different path, to a different journey. And for me, I would say, having made those choices to follow my heart, believing that all things work together for good,
Yes.
it gave me a little bit of peace, actually, I have to say. You know, because then I realized that what can you do if you don't have the power? What do? You just accept yourself and you accept your journey and you move on.
All right.
And let God deal with the rest.
All right.
But I have to say my partner was, God bless his soul, he's an amazing guy. He held my hand until today, sitting here with you. He said, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. And even if you have a lot of questions, you're not going to get answers for everything. Maybe someday you will. But it's okay also if you don't get answers for the questions that you have.
All right.
And it's about making peace, Tina, with yourself. Because if you make peace with yourself, you will look at things differently. You know, you will digest, and then you will say, okay, this has been done to me, or this has happened to me, but this is what I want, and this is what I choose to. So the choices that you will choose to make, and if you're comfortable with that, you will create peace with your decisions and the choices that you make.
Okay. One more break and then we will be right back. Remember, you're watching Women's View. Our conversation of the day is self-discovery and purpose. I have with me beautiful Fauza. She would love to hear your thoughts on this, your questions on this. Please remember, you can reach us on Facebook. Our SMS line is also open to 1144. See you in a little bit. And we are back. I am having an amazing conversation with Fauza. We are talking about the journey of self-discovery and finding your purpose, taking it from her personal journey. And so before we went on the break, we have talked about Fauza growing up, Fauza in high school, in college, and Fauza now earning money, Fauza getting married. And it's all coming out to this woman who has a purpose and a destiny. And I love something you said in the beginning. You said that all of us have a story.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your story. Writing down your book. I'm holding in my hands a copy of your book.
Yeah.
What inspired this? What's the inspiration behind your book?
What's inspiration behind my book? So Rising from the Dust for me was the end of all those other things which I had victimized myself and sabotaged myself, and I wanted now to draw the line on the middle and move on with my life. So the journey began when I actually co-authored another book with 15 different women in Australia, New Zealand, and United Arab Emirates. That's myself. And it's after I shared just a chapter of myself and traveling to speak about why did I decide to be a part of the book. People wanted to know more. There were a lot of questions, but what happened? People wanted to know more. So I remember actually one gentleman saying to me, after I gave my talk, he said to me, after watching you, listening to you, I have been in a similar journey as you, but I cannot talk about it because I'm so embarrassed of myself. And then I realized that if he cannot talk about, and I have the platform, I have the support to do it, why can't I? Of course, I wasn't sure how it's going to be, because then you're opening up your life to the world. You don't know how they will say, of course, people can say anything they can, because story has both sides, and people can relate with it or not, and they can say whatever they want. But for me, the anger, the hunger, not anger, the hunger of, wanting to write my journey started to creep in. it wasn't an easy thing to do. And I remember approaching local, approaching traditional publishers. And sometimes if people, they don't understand your journey, it's hard for you to explain. So they said no. And I got 3 no's. So when I got 3 rejection, I realized maybe there is something in this journey that it needs to be talked about. So I began writing. And my sister-in-law, who we have co-authored the other book with, she helped me through the journey. And Rising from the Dust is a personal journey, like these things, struggling with my own emotional, feeling like I'm rejected, feeling all the labels and everything. I wanted to put it in a book, not for Fauza, because Fauza now, she has moved on with her life.
Okay.
But the reason why I did it was maybe for someone, somewhere, maybe a little girl, somewhere in the world. It's not only in Kenya, it's everywhere, because after living as an expat, stories are there. There is a book in every person. And sometimes because no one wants to talk about it, because we don't want to be labeled. We are so scared of being vulnerable. But then I realized, actually, for me, being vulnerable, I think it's a good thing.
All right.
And if we share our stories, we are liberating the other person so that they can also accept their own journey and move on with their life that actually God has created them, to be for their own purpose. So Rising from the Dust is for anyone. It's for women, it's for men, it's for, of course, it looks more for women, but it's for, I have men who they have read the book and they relate so much with the book.
With the journey.
With the journey, yeah, because stories, like I said, there is a book in everyone. So for me, Rising from the Dust it's for somebody who they feel like there is no hope to life.
All right.
There is no light after the end of the tunnel. There is why am I here on earth, just to remind them that you are loved. Right. Actually, he who created you loves you, unconditional, and he has created you to be on this earth for a reason. And looking at Fauza, looking at myself, I realized that I blocked so much of myself because I was only focusing on the negative of things instead of also learning from all these things and do something with it. Because when we are going through things, there is always a lesson to learn from it. But sometimes, because we are always focusing on the, on the other side of the darkness, instead of, really asking, why am I in this journey? What's happening? What is it that I need to learn from this? Because, Tina, there is always a lesson in everything.
There is a lesson in
everything. There is. Even if sometimes we don't know, God will never give us a challenge that we can't handle. That I know, and that I think I've gone through it somehow. So for me, this book is just an encouragement for another person that they cannot lose their own power, no matter what has been said about them, no matter what they have gone through. It's only God, only God who has the final word for each one of us. And until God says it, nobody, no one, not even our own families, that they can determine who we should be or who we shouldn't be. That's it.
All right. Do you think talking about it has aided in your healing process? Taking it from, at some point you talked about going through fear, going through anger, and not being able to talk about it.
Yes.
Because as a society, we don't talk about the skeletons in the closet.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about our failures. We want to just bask in the glory of now without telling people the backstory. Do you think it's important for people to come out and speak up and say, this is where I've been, this is what I have been through? Has it caused you healing, and do you think it will bring healing to people?
I think when we tell our stories, we are liberating, like I said, the other people, you know, like now we are having this conversation, Tina, right? And for me, going on this journey, it has helped me to heal myself. It has helped me to forgive myself. It has helped me to forgive those who have wronged me, even though sometimes you can ask for forgiveness and you don't get it. And you should be okay with that, that asking for forgiveness, you know, it can be accepted or not.
It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it.
Yes, exactly. But if you forgive yourself and you ask God for forgiveness, you heal yourself too, you know. And for me, with this journey, I've healed myself. It's sort of therapeutical because when you're journaling all those things down, you are letting those emotions come out of you. And that was like a healing process for myself. And yeah, letting go and forgiving everything that has happened to you and forgiving those who have hurt us. It's not easy, but we need to do it not for them, but for us, for our own well-being and for our own peace of mind.
All right. Before you take your parting shot, allow me to ask about the forgiveness. What did you feel you had to forgive yourself for?
Forgive myself for blaming others, my parents, you know, the community, you know, everything, you know. And I realize when I forgive, because God will also forgive us, but if we don't forgive, God is not going to forgive us, right? And for me, I felt like I need to forgive everything and everyone for all the pain that I have caused them, first of all. We need to be very clear. Forgiving ourselves for the pain that we have caused others, forgiving other people for the pain that they have caused us, and forgiving ourselves for, you know, for victimizing ourselves and sabotaging ourselves.
All right.
Because without forgiveness, it's impossible.
Oh, wow. All right. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your journey with us. It's been amazing sitting with you, very enlightening. And you're an amazing lady. I hope you do feel beautiful now. But that's a conversation for another day. We have come to the end of our episode today. We are so glad that you joined us. We would still love to hear your comments, your opinions, your thoughts on this. You can reach us on SMS, that is 21144. You can reach us on Facebook. We are looking forward to hearing from you. It's been great having you. Until next time, God bless you.